What is up everyone? Welcome to the video. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up video to the last video that I posted, and that was all about Tia-Clair Toomey and the CrossFit Open and how she was doing the workouts and how people were just being really mean and commenting on her body, and that we honestly have no right to comment on her body, and that she was probably doing the safest thing she could do, and that the workouts that she was doing in the open are no different than the workouts she does on a regular basis, because she is Tia-Clair Toomey. So she actually did release a video. If you haven't seen it already, I'll have it linked down below, the full video, but I wanted to do a little bit of a reaction to it. She addressed like all the concerns that people had of her working out during the CrossFit Open, why she was doing it. So I just wanted to react to it really quick and just kind of share some of my thoughts and feelings and follow up from the last video that I did. And also, of course, if you didn't see my last video, I'll have it linked down below, or I'll try and put it up in one of the cards so you guys can check it out too. So let's get into it.
I plan on doing the quarterfinal workouts, but when I think back over the past years and what workouts were in the quarterfinals, you had ring muscle ups, and we had ring muscle ups, which makes me think that there might be bar muscle ups, and I definitely know that I won't be able to do the bar muscle ups. There also could be GHDs, pistols, and movements that provide a lot more difficulty for me to move. I'm gonna try and do every single open quarterfinal workout as they come to the best of my ability, but I'm definitely going to have to scale some movements when it comes to those more complex ones.
So she starts the video talking about how she technically wants to do the quarterfinal workouts, and she hasn't received her invite technically, which is interesting. I'm surprised she hasn't received it. Maybe she has now, by now, I would assume so, since it's happening and it's all finalized. Anyways, so she technically still wants to do the workouts whether she makes it to the quarterfinals or not. It doesn't matter if she makes it. It's not a big deal for her. Oh my gosh, snowplow's going by. So if you hear banging, it's just a snowplow. We got a lot of snow, as you guys can see. Anyway, so she just discussed how in the quarterfinals, it seems like there's going to be like a lot of movements that she cannot do because she is pregnant. And in the CrossFit Open, she explained that there was ring muscle ups, which she couldn't do because of that flexion in her stomach. She can't do that. And it seems like there will be ring muscle ups, maybe bar muscle ups, probably bar muscle ups, since they weren't in the first part of the Open, and she can't do that. And she kind of continued to say, like, in the CrossFit Open, she was just able to do most of the movements, whereas the quarterfinals, she'll probably have to scale most of those movements, which completely makes sense. Like, it seemed like she was able to do a lot of movements for someone who is pregnant, but she also is an elite athlete, so it isn't too difficult for her to do those movements. And as I see that the quarterfinals are going to be a little bit harder, and she's just going to struggle with some of those movements, and it's going to limit her, which is totally expected when you're pregnant.
And that workout I did actually in Columbus, Ohio at the Rogue headquarters, and I didn't realize that by not doing it at my affiliate where the proven team had to do their workouts, I wouldn't be eligible to potentially be a reserve later on in the season if the team needed to.
And then she also goes on to address why she ended up doing the third workout twice. When I first saw it, not gonna lie, I did think like, oh, why are you doing it twice? Like, that makes no sense for someone who technically isn't gonna qualify for the CrossFit Games. So I am glad she addressed it, because I saw a lot of comments. People are like, why would you bother doing it twice? Like, you're just hurting the baby, because people are just fucking mean and rude, honestly. And so at least she addresses to why she did it twice. And as she explains in the video, she had to do it twice because technically she's an alternate for the proven team, which is interesting. I mean, it doesn't mean it'll actually come into play if she is an alternate. But that being said, she's an alternate, and she had to end up doing it at the affiliate that she's at. And it was nice that CrossFit actually reached out to her and told her that, because I feel like CrossFit most of the time for regular people wouldn't say shit. Anyways, so they reached out to her, told her, hey, you actually have to do it at the affiliate. So she flew home, and obviously she had to do it super last minute, but she ended up doing better. So it was kind of like a win-win situation, I guess.
I noticed obviously a whole bunch of questions and comments and opinions, and I love it all. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
So Tia continues on to address some of the hate that she's been getting. I say hate because honestly it is hate, but Tia says it like super nicely. She's like, I'm just gonna address all the comments and the questions that people have, and I appreciate that. Like, that's really nice of you, Tia, to, you know, say it that way. That's nice.
But when it came to my pregnancy, and as I've progressed through the pregnancy, I've been consulting with my OB. I've been able to confine in each one of them, and, you know, go about the journey open-minded, but also considering on what they recommend and what they suggest. And in comparison to what I've done in the past, and also what I'm capable of doing, what they say is you don't want to do anything that's out of the ordinary.
She continues to talk about how she has gotten opinions throughout her pregnancy. She's seen many doctors, she's seen many pelvic floor specialists, which is great. Pelvic floor specialists, really great, especially when you're an elite athlete. And this is something that is important. We see ourselves as non-elite athletes, where she is an elite athlete, so we cannot compare ourselves. We cannot see her journey as similar to one of ours. My journey as a pregnant woman was completely different than hers, and it's important that she got those opinions because that we don't know what it's like to be pregnant at an elite level. And I'm sure she wanted to make sure she was making the best decisions because, of course, she can do many movements very easily. Like a wall walk, very difficult for most of us. Maybe not very difficult, but it is difficult for most of us. Whereas her, a wall walk's nothing. It's like going for a walk. It's the same thing for her. So it was important that she got those opinions, and it's great that she got those opinions, and we need to be reminded of that of course, Tia has been so aware of her body for so many years. A majority of her life, she has been hyper-focused on how her body performs. So of course, when it came to her pregnancy, she's gonna do the same thing. She's an elite athlete. She wants to make sure she's taking the precautions when it comes to working out for her and her baby and her body and the recovery after. I did the exact same. I'm not an elite athlete, but I wanted to make sure that my body recovered properly after my pregnancy. So I saw my physiotherapist. We made sure to work on my pelvic floor. We made sure to not cone too much and not put too much stress on my abs. And that really did help. And most women who are aware of their bodies and are working out and want to make sure that they're working out properly, not injuring themselves further, and want to recover properly after their pregnancy, they're gonna seek that out. And I'm glad that she reminded people that, of course, she would do that. She's not dumb. She needs to do those things because she is used to such an elite way of moving in the gym that most of us just aren't used to that, and she needs to seek out professional opinions because she doesn't want to do anything, of course, to hurt her baby. She's a mother. She doesn't want to do that. Sorry, my camera just died and I had to charge it really quick, but what I wanted to mention is that there's one key piece of information that she mentioned in this video, and it's at 5 minutes and 50 seconds or somewhere around there. She really said something that was very important, and I think is the golden nugget of this video, and I really hope that people recognize this. And she says, look, my training used to be very intense, like very intense. She's a CrossFit athlete and her training has reduced a lot, but her low end of training is pretty much a high end for an average CrossFitter.
My training regime prior to being pregnant was very intense. I'm definitely not training that intense, and I've definitely dialed it back dramatically.
So we need to recognize that her training has changed, and that is important. And that's what I emphasized in my own video, and I wanted to emphasize because we forget she's an elite athlete. Like I've said many times in this video already, her training is so completely different to ours, and people need to remind themselves that and remind themselves like, hey, her training is going to be so different than ours. So when it comes to her pregnancy and her training in her pregnancy, it's going to look way different than a typical average CrossFitter's training. And she says, exactly, I dialed back dramatically. That is important because we don't see her daily training. I mean, we see some workouts and it looks cool on YouTube. We see these edits and all this stuff, which is like, yeah, that looks really cool. But we don't realize like there's a lot of training. She is training for hours and hours a day, weeks and weeks and weeks and hours. And that's important because most of us don't train like that. And we forget that, and we forget that these elite CrossFitters do so much more than the average person in CrossFit, and it's important to remind ourselves that. So she continues to talk about pretty much the advice that she's gotten and what she's kind of held onto as she's worked out throughout her pregnancy, which I did the same for myself, and it was the advice that I got from my doctor, and it was to go with how your body feels. How does your body feel that day? Does the movement hurt? Are you struggling through the movement? Is it hard? I went through that too, and that's the mindset that I took when I decided to work out during my pregnancy. Like running, when I tried to run in my pregnancy, it was fucking hard and I couldn't do it. It made me feel really bad, so I stopped it. I had to stop doing Olympic lifts because I was just too scared. It was getting close to my belly and I didn't feel good doing it. So I stuck to movements that I felt good doing throughout my pregnancy. And it's the same as what she's doing too. So a wall walk, or maybe one day she can do double unders and the next day it doesn't feel good because her baby's sitting a bit low and it's putting a lot of pressure on her pelvic floor. She knows those feelings and she's going by how she feels, and those movements might put more strain on us, whereas those movements might not put strain on her on a regular basis, and she's just gonna go with how she feels day by day. And I think that's the rule of thumb of what we need to realize, is that she's not doing anything insane. She really isn't. What she's doing isn't too insane for her. If she was doing ring muscle ups in the CrossFit Open, okay, yeah, I might say that's a little insane, but she went with how her body felt. That was going to be too much pressure on her stomach, so she didn't do it. But she was able to do 50 toes to bar, which is probably nothing to her, and that takes a lot of abdominal control for a lot of people, but she does them all the time, so it was like nothing. 50 toes to bar, easy for her, but for us, maybe not. So after that, Tia doesn't really address anything specific, but I'm just grateful that she made this video, and I think it was important that she did make that video. It sucks, but Tia has a lot of eyes on her. She has millions of followers, and when she's putting out content like that, of course people are going to have opinions and people aren't going to understand, and I'm sure a lot of women were confused because they weren't able to do those things during their pregnancy, and I'm sure their doctors were like, don't fucking do that, you're going to hurt yourself, which you probably would. So we need to remind ourselves, yeah, Tia, she is going to move a lot different than we do, and I'm glad she made this video because, like I said in my video, that needs to be addressed just a little bit. We don't see her daily life, we don't see everything she does, and so it's really hard for us to make a comment, to make a judgment, really. A lot of people were judging her, and it sucks. It sucks that she had to do it, but at the same time, it was important that she did it because she has so many eyes on her, and I think that it's important that she addressed that, because I hope that also on the same side of things, that people who aren't elite athletes who are pregnant and see Tia doing these things, and if they're like, oh, well, if Tia Claire Toomey can do it, then I can do it. And it's like, no, you really have to go with how your body feels, how you're doing in your pregnancy, and go from there. So don't ever compare yourself to an elite athlete unless you are an elite athlete, which I doubt you're watching this video, but if you are, then that's completely different. But you need to recognize that everyone's pregnancy journey is completely different, and hers is going to be completely different to a majority of women who do CrossFit. And I also want to just touch on quickly, because Cara released her video about her being pregnant and how she wasn't able to work out during her first trimester of her pregnancy because she could have had a miscarriage. It seemed like it was kind of going in that direction. And she's an elite athlete too. This is her second pregnancy and she took it easy. She didn't work out. She had to rest and do all those things because she knew her body and she knew what her body needed, and she didn't push through it. So we need to remember, at the end of the day, a lot of elite athletes know their bodies better than most of us know our own bodies, and that is the most important thing that we need to remember. So I'm gonna leave it off here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. It really helps the channel a lot. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button down below. You guys know where it is. And don't forget to be unstoppable, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Summer days burn me out, love just brings me down. Go inside like winter leaves that slowly leave the ground. Hey, you come back, I wanna give you a chance. Love me like you used to, so we can learn again. The skin is getting brown, baby, drink your night.